It said youth must be served, but not for dinner. How young animal rights activists are nurtured to see the connection between their lives and the animals. How PETA 2 transformed into SOS, students opposing speciesism. Next on the PETA Podcast. Welcome to the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil, Guillermo, your host for this inside look at PETA, the largest animal rights organization in the world. On today's episode, how young activists are nurtured and formed, the future of PETA, more like the young vegans of the world. Back in the day when cool people used MySpace, the young would network about animal rights and engage with each other at events like the Vans Warped Tours. Even I've been to a few of them. As a parent, PETA had PETA 2 to meet young people head on. Now a new generation of PETA has evolved from MySpace to Instagram and TikTok, and to reach them, SOS, Students Opposing Speciesism, has developed into a nationwide group of young people, from Berkeley and San Diego to Boston, New Jersey, and Orlando, Florida, and all the points in between. High schools and colleges are engaged to learn about compassion for animals and to protest for animals' rights to live without suffering. And they learn the link between oppression, racism, and speciesism, from human to animal. Recently, a group protested at SeaWorld that got people's attention all over social media. We'll talk to the student organizer, but we begin with Rochelle Owen, the director of Students Opposing Speciesism. I asked her why speciesism, the discrimination of a being based on their species, connects with young people today. I mean, I know what the dictionary definition is, but how do you define it when you talk to people so that they get it and understand how it links to them?
The way I describe it to others is othering, this concept of othering. I know all of us, hopefully most of us are raised to know that it's not okay differently because they look different from you, or they come from a different place, or their skin is a different color, or they believe something different than you. It's like a core of, most people's belief system. And so that's how I kind of go about explaining it. We treat animals differently because they communicate differently, because they have different cultures and languages that we just don't oftentimes care to try to understand. And it's not okay to put them through these systemic abuses just for our own personal gain. It's not okay to see them as fabric or test tubes or food. Just because they are different than us. They still have the same capacity to feel pain and to suffer, and they're the same as us in all the ways that matter the most.
And do you see that light bulb go off? Do you see that link made? Do you see that when they see that, they're out there, protesting, Black Lives Matter or, anti-racism, when you give them that definition, does the light bulb go off?
I think with Gen Z, it does. I think it's starting to make more sense to people, this idea that, animals exist for their own reasons. And I think hopefully the more they see other, people at their school or in their community thinking about this, which is part of what Alexis does, is make sure that happens. I think they'll come around to it. It is definitely something you have to stop and think about. I hope that people will take a step back and think about an animal they know who's inspired them, or, they can shift their thinking a little bit to think, okay, animals actually do have feelings. That can be a struggle just to get people to think that animals have feelings. So that's one of the hurdles we face. But I do think that people are coming around to the idea that maybe they've had these belief systems that are toxic and that they need to learn and grow as people. And I hope animal rights and anti-speciesism plays a role there.
When you say toxic feelings, you mean like toxic or indifferent feelings, right? Toward animals, or what they eat, or animals in labs, or animals in circuses even. But as you give the definition for speciesism, it must remind you of when that light bulb went off in your own head, huh?
Oh, definitely. And I've always remembered that moment. I grew up in inner city Detroit, an only child. My family was lower income. So we didn't have, too much going on, but I did have a dog, and his name was Token. And, as a kid, because I was an only child, he was really my brother. I spent every moment I could with him. I, made him play all the games and interact with me the same way I would a human brother, probably. And I distinctly remember one day kind of laying on the floor with him, and I was petting him, and, I was watching his chest rise and fall and looking in his eyes. And I just remember I had to be maybe like 5 or 6 and thinking like, wow, there's a person in there. He loves me. He shows me so much affection and care. And at the same time, I remember thinking like, I control almost every element of his life. When he needs to go to the bathroom, I have to open the door. When he's thirsty, I have to give him water. I just remember this moment thinking like, wow, this is an awesome responsibility. And, I was a kid, so I didn't really put like a definition on that about my actions specifically, but I just will never forget that moment. I think back to it all the time. It really did change my life. It led me down this path of thinking about animals in a different way.
So when you talk to prospective students who might be part of SOS, is that a connection? Their animal companions or the animals in their lives?
I definitely think so. I think it just takes a little bit of effort to look at, this animal, this person who you share your life with. And I just feel like if more people kind of took some time and thought about those animals they share their lives with, to kind of appreciate their personalities and the way they communicate and all of their amazing abilities, I think it would be easier for people to make that connection, to think, okay, this animal deserves respect. They have feelings. They feel pain and happiness. And, I have such a responsibility to make sure that they have a good life and carry that through to other animals. I think that's so important.
And it's a message that's you reach people under 24. That's your target for SOS. And is that message connecting with those people?
I think so. We hear from students who say they're inspired by the animals who they know, who they've adopted, or, who they share their lives with. I think it does. I think it does. It makes it easier to kind of understand who animals are to an extent.
And so SOS, you're trying to grow it. The SeaWorld protest was one of the first actions you took, right?
Well, SeaWorld, so SeaWorld was actually student-led. The students came up with this idea to come together. So we had multiple SOS hubs. So that's just what the groups are called. From coast to coast, actually work together to do this day of action. So it was our San Jose group, our UCLA group in San Diego, San Antonio, and of course, Alexis's group in Orlando. So they all coordinated together to do this big day of action where they just held these amazing demonstrations with costumes and signs and props. Just did an amazing job. And also, I believe Alexis was interviewed by her school paper. So she's going even one step further to get that message out.
And so all of this was happening simultaneously nationwide on this one day, coast to coast, through all these hubs at all the different SeaWorld, sites. And how many people were involved with all the hubs?
Yeah, I think each, I don't know if every hub had every single member come out. But I believe at each protest, there were about half a dozen to a dozen folks who came up in support.
And then, and I saw the pictures, and we'll put pictures in on the podcast notes, and also to the link on the website showing, what it looked like. What kind of effect do you think they had?
Well, I think it's a really impressive effect. I mean, I know they had megaphones out there. They were, going up to cars as close as you can get during COVID and really talking to the people who were thinking about turning into the locations. And I think one big way that these students also make a huge impact is by running really amazing social media pages. So, they did this protest on one day, but they share the footage and the video and the photos online with all of their followers as well. And so I think it's just really a dynamic way to spread the word, whether it's online or offline.
And that's kind of one of the key differences between this SOS effort and the old PETA 2, where you were saying to me earlier that was back in the days of MySpace, and things are happening on social media. How about TikTok? Are you on I know you're on TikTok, right?
PETA is on TikTok, yeah, and we share some SOS actions on TikTok for sure. And yeah, PETA 2 did evolve. We were on Facebook and Instagram and everything. So we definitely know the power of social media. It's so important to get out there to followers with this footage.
And so now, what is the goals of or what are the goals of SOS in terms of growing it? I know you're asking people if they want to join, if they're 24 and under, if they can be as young as high school kids, right? I mean, you got hubs from say San Jose to Medina, Ohio, to you got Mecklenburg, Pennsylvania. You're in New York. You're all over the place. How many hubs? What's the goal for hubs?
I mean, really, as many as we can get, as many students who will join. I mean, really, our goal is to make sure that students know about SOS, know that we have the resources. We'll send them campaign materials to support PETA's campaigns, or we'll help them create their own campaigns. If they want to take on dissection at their school and get that banned, we're there for them every step of the way. If they want to get a local store to stop selling fur, we will help them do that. Actually, we just had a Boston hub be really active with the Saks campaign, just this week, Saks agreed to stop selling fur. So students are out there on the front lines making a difference. Our goal is really to just let them know we are here for them, to support them, and help them win more victories like that.
And then tell us a little about Alexis in Orlando, because that was kind of impressive to sort of head up at the big headquarters, the SeaWorld campaign. Tell us about how someone like Alexis is a kind of model for, future SOSers.
Oh, yeah, she's such an inspiration. I mean, I'm inspired by her work every day. I come into, my office and check the UCF Hub, the Knights for Animal Rights Instagram page to see what they're up to. And UCF is one of our most active hubs. This wasn't the first protest they'd done, the SeaWorld one. They protested to raise awareness for pigs on farms, including showing footage of our East Fork farm investigation. They have been out there protesting urban outfitters for selling animal-derived materials. They have really been active in every way since starting with SOS. And Alexis is great because she's also inspired an activist in Chicago to start his own SOS hub, and helped him do that, kind of guided him and mentored him to do his first protest. And she's just fantastic. She's a great leader and such an inspiring organizer.
So animal rights is youthful and fun again, huh? This is really, this is
yeah. It always has been. I mean, when I started off as a PETA 2 street teamer, I was, going to the punk shows, getting signatures for PETA's campaigns. And I thought, animal rights is definitely what I wanted to do and was an important issue to me. And I don't think that's ever changed. It's natural to care about animals. Just got to figure out how to do that in the most compassionate way and go beyond caring and actually take action for them. And I think students are ready to do that.
PETA's Rochelle Owen, the director of Students Opposing Speciesism. Rochelle runs the organization that has hubs all across the nation at high schools and colleges. One of the most successful is in Orlando at the University of Central Florida. UCF students are known as the Knights, so of course the SOS group is dubbed the Knights for Animal Rights, and they take on the big guns in their area, SeaWorld. I talked to the Knights for Animal Rights leader, Alexis Cullum, about that protest and about her involvement in SOS, how it changed her life and clarified her goals.
I'm actually a senior right now. I graduate this upcoming fall, so I'm pretty excited.
But you can still be a member of SOS. They go to 24. You're still young enough. So when did you start getting involved with SOS?
So I really began getting started. They opened in March, and that was actually perfect timing. I became president of my club, Knights for Animal Rights, at the University of Central Florida last fall. And all of the previous officers, previous presidents had been PETA representatives through PETA 2. And when I was president, I wanted to continue that. So I reached out and was like, how do I get involved and stuff? And they informed me that instead of PETA 2, now it's SOS. And when I learned about like what SOS does and how it's really situated to involve all of the youth across the United States, like that was just something to me that was amazing, and I wanted to really be a part of and get my club involved with it too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, were you ever really animal rights person growing up? I mean, did you grow up in Orlando?
I grew up in South Florida, and then I came to Orlando after I graduated high school for college. But yeah, I definitely would say I've been an avid animal rights activist even since I was little. Like one of the things that I remember is like, I don't know if you guys have this where you are, but in South Florida during the summertime, we get like love bugs, and it's like a swarm of them. And I remember like in preschool, we wouldn't be able to go have recess because there would just be like a plague of love bugs outside, and everyone would run around like kind of squashing them. And I'd be like, why would you do that? They're not doing anything to you. Why are you, so even in preschool, I was like, why would you hurt something that's not doing anything to you? We have to protect them and stuff. Love bugs.
A kind heart. Now, were you vegan too?
No. So I grew up, my family's from Wisconsin. So I grew up a cheesehead and eating meat and cheese and stuff. And it wasn't until So I was always passionate for animals growing up, but I didn't have that connection of food and animals that a lot of people grow up, not really seeing that connection. It wasn't until I was in 10th grade dual enrolling at Florida Atlantic University that my professor for ENC 1102, her name was Professor Tiffany Frost. She was vegan, and all of our literature and the things we were talking about were all about like ethics and animal rights. And I always have wanted to be a veterinarian since I was little. That was what I wanted to be. And so I was like, hold on, like, all these things are happening to animals and I didn't even really know about it. And it already kind of got me thinking as the semester progressed. I wrote my essay on, animal ethics and why we should protect them and stuff. But on the last day of class, she brought in some vegan food, and it was the first time I really tried it, and it was really good. And we had a movie day, and we watched Earthlings. And that was a life-changing experience for me. It was the first time I'd seen footage like that I was, Earthlings covers all the 5 areas that humans exploit animals for: fashion, entertainment, food, experiment, and companion animals as well. So I had never thought about it that way. That was really what set me on becoming vegan. I was vegan. Like that night I went home, I was like, Mom, I can't eat any of this stuff. You need to buy me tofu.
What did your mom say?
They were definitely worried and wanted to make sure that I was healthy going vegan. They, if you don't really know about all the different options that there are in the amazing food and the nutrients that are in all of the plants and fruits and vegetables that we have, it may be hard to see how this is healthy and sustainable for someone to live by. So it definitely took a lot of reassuring them that this is what I want to do. This is for me. And because I feel like I need to for my own morals and stuff, if I want to save animals as a veterinarian, I can't be eating them and killing them every day on my plate. It didn't line up for me, and I couldn't continue living like that. But they eventually they understood, and they know I can be stubborn when I want something. And I feel like it's the right thing to do. So they understand now. They don't push or anything. Yeah.
It's your life. And look, you're president at UCF, Knights for Animal Rights. Over the last year, we've had, especially in the summer, we had the whole George Floyd protests throughout the country, the BLM protests. Youth were out there. When you try to show that there's a connection between that and speciesism, do people get it, or do you have to convince them?
I definitely think speciesism is a super important topic to cover because a lot of people don't know what it is. They're like, what is that? Like they can't even really say it sometimes. And yeah, it's really important because it shows how, it doesn't matter where, like what group you're in, you can be oppressed just from being in that group. So definitely relating it to the Black Lives Matter movement and everything. I do kind of find that people, it's kind of a touchy subject. They don't like comparing animals to people, and they think that they're separate entities and that what happens to people couldn't be the same that happens to animals, when in actuality, animals develop super tight-knit bonds with their young and with the animals around them and stuff. And I think people just don't see how similar we actually are to the animals that we share this planet with.
What usually tips them over to see your perspective and your point of view?
It depends on kind of how open the person is to thinking about their choices and how that affects others. Sometimes I feel like people can be closed off and they're like, oh, I'm just drinking milk. I'm not contributing to that, but they may not either be educated and aware of the full process of what happens, how dairy cows still end up being slaughtered. And, by drinking milk, you're still supporting that industry. And even regardless, the milk isn't for us. Some people are open to that and they can kind of see the logic. But sometimes, people have grown up like this and they've been raised like this. So they think this is how I live and this is okay. So it kind of depends on the type of person. Yeah.
So it's a bigger challenge for you, but when it came to SeaWorld, did people get it right away?
In SeaWorld, I think you still have the people on either side that are saying, SeaWorld does conservation and they support, all of that, but they don't want to look at the other side of where we're still keeping these animals in captivity and taking them out of the oceans to be put on display for us. And where we really should be seeing these animals is in their natural habitats. That's where we see them in all their glory, doing everything they should naturally be doing, not tricks in a pool. So in Orlando, it's kind of a touchy subject because people that grew up here love SeaWorld and they've grown up going all the time. And, even as a kid, I can say like when watching the performers and stuff, you want to work with dolphins. That looks like an awesome opportunity. So it's kind of really getting people to see how the industries kind of portray themselves in ways that they may not, fully be, of being all for the animals. That sometimes can be difficult to get across, but.
Well, so what gives you the courage then to go forward and to mount that protest, which was a very successful one at SeaWorld? What gave you the courage?
Well, really seeing what the potentials that I could do with SOS, of having activists across the United States working together on like similar campaigns. I thought that was an amazing opportunity that we could really do something with. And especially seeing that we had hubs in the same cities that the 3 SeaWorld locations are in: Orlando, San Antonio, Texas, and San Diego, California. I thought this would just be perfect for all of us to get together, make a real stand that, students are coming out, organized on the same day to speak up for what we believe in. And where I get the motivation for that is seeing those people that we are able to get across to, seeing that light bulb and seeing the shift and how they become passionate about it as well, because we're talking about saving all of the animals in the planet that we're in.
So you're going to continue on, because even though you graduate, you're going to, SOS goes to age 24. Do you see animal rights being part of your life now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Since I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I realized when I went vegan in this classroom how many animals there really are to save. When you're a vet, you save one in surgery and stuff, but just by shifting your lifestyle, you can save millions of animals. So what I want to do now is, I've always also been passionate about art. And so I want to use my art to advocate and raise awareness for animals, because a picture says 1,000 words. So if I may not be able to get to someone during an outreach conversation, just seeing an artwork, I can maybe get across what I'm trying to say and send that emotion and the feelings, so that they can really understand like my passion and why they should care about it too, and what they can do to help. So yeah, I definitely plan on continuing my activism. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And I know there's more actions to come at UCF, at the hub there. Alexis Cullum, I really appreciate you being on the PETA podcast. Good luck to you in the future. Really, I really look forward to the next protest you lead.
Thank you so much. We're definitely excited to get that put together. We've been actually thinking about maybe doing one related to, since we're in Florida, relating to how alligators and gators are kind of used for entertainment here as well. So kind of spinning off of where we use aquatic animals. And this is more centered towards us here in Florida. So definitely keep an eye out for that. I'm excited to help in any other way I can with SOS and putting forward the message for the animals.
Alexis Cullum, a student at the University of Central Florida and the leader of the SOS Hub there. Before her, we talked to Rochelle Owen, PETA's director of SOS, Students Opposing Speciesism. Find out more on www.sos.peta.org. And that's our show for today. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to send a link of this show to your friends. Yeah, just do it. I dare you. Just do it. Tell them you like the PETA podcast. And you can contact us at PETA.org. You can find me on Twitter at Emil Amok. That's EMILAMOK. Or on amok.com, amok.com. Or see my work at ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. That's at ALDEF, AALDEF.org/blog. Once again, thank you for listening. Check out all our episodes on your favorite podcast app or on Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review the show. It helps get the word out about the issues you care about. Our music is provided by CarbonWorks. Check them out on YouTube. And join us again next time for more insight into animal rights and the fight for a cruelty-free world on the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo.